The arena was alive with noise. Thousands of alien voices shouted, laughed, and chanted. Above them, glowing banners floated in the air. Displaying the name of the champion everyone had come to see, Zarathia, the undefeated alien warrior. Her armor shone under the bright arena lights, black metal with glowing blue lines that pulsed like veins of lightning. She walked with the confidence of someone who had never lost. Every step loud against the metal floor across from her stood the challenger, human man. No armor, no glowing weapons, no towering size, just a plain black shirt, loose trousers, and something strange in his hands. Two short sticks connected by a chain. Zarathia tilted her head, smirking. "Is this a joke?" She called out, her voice echoing. "You bring sticks to fight me." The crowd erupted in laughter, some even doubling over, clutching their sides. To them, the human looked like a fool. They had seen plasma swords, rail cannons, and energy shields, but never this. The human didn't answer. He stood still, his grip on the nunchuck steady, his eyes locked on her. His breathing was calm, almost too calm for someone about to face an alien champion. Zarathia paced slowly, circling him. Her silver hair flowed behind her, the glow from her armor reflecting in her green eyes. She pointed at his weapon with a mocking laugh. "This is how humans fight. No wonder your kind never wins." Somewhere in the stands, a deep horn sounded. The signal, the gates behind them slammed shut with a heavy clang. The fight was about to begin. From the highest seat in the arena, the alien queen leaned forward. Her jeweled crown shimmered as she studied the human. She had seen him before just once, when he walked into her court and demanded a duel with her champion. No human had ever dared to do that. The countdown appeared in the air. 3, 2, 1. The crowd roared, expecting blood in seconds. Zarathia charged first. Her armored boots thundered across the floor, her fist glowing with built-in energy blades. She raised her arm high, aiming for a blow that could crush steel. But the human didn't move until the very last moment. Then whip. The nunchuck spun into motion, the chain singing in the air. Before her strike could land, the stick snapped against her gauntlet with a sharp crack. Sparks burst from the point of impact. Zarathia stumbled back, blinking in surprise. A small piece of her armor clinked to the floor. The crowd's laughter faltered. She frowned and tightened her grip. "Lucky hit," she hissed. She came again, faster this time. The human stepped aside, the nunchucks spinning in a blur. Another strike, this time to her shoulder, made her stumble again. He didn't speak. His silence was heavier than any insult. The alien queen's lips curved into the smallest smile. She knew skill when she saw it. The human's movements were too precise, too deliberate to be luck. Zarathia tried a different tactic. She stepped back, raising her arms to taunt him again. "Come on, human. Show me what you think you can do." He still didn't reply. He only spun the nunchucks faster, the motion smooth and controlled, like water flowing through the air. The chain glinted in the arena lights, the sound sharp and rhythmic, almost like a war drum. For a moment, the crowd grew quieter, watching the strange, hypnotic movement. Even those who had been laughing now leaned forward. Something about this didn't feel like a joke anymore. Zarathia's smirk faded into a tight line. She could feel a shift in the air, like the calm before a storm. She tightened her stance, every muscle ready. She wasn't laughing now. The human finally moved forward. His steps were light, his weapon already in motion. Zarathia braced herself. She was still confident after all. She had armor, size, and strength on her side. But something deep inside her whispered that she had made a mistake. That whisper grew louder when she saw the look in his eyes. They weren't the eyes of a desperate man hoping to survive. They were the eyes of a hunter who had already decided how this would end. The crowd began to chant her name again, trying to drown out the unease. But their voices seemed distant now, like they were shouting from another world. The two fighters stood just a few feet apart now. The air between them felt heavy, every second stretching longer than it should. The human gave the smallest tilt of his head, like a signal only she could understand, and in that instant, Sarathia realized. He wasn't here to try. He was here to win. Sarathia's fists clenched tighter inside her armored gauntlets. The sting from the last strike still pulsed through her arm. She didn't want to admit it. But the human's strange weapon had hurt her more than she expected. She adjusted her stance, taking a deep breath. Around them, the alien crowd started chanting again, their voices echoing through the massive arena. Sarathia, Sarathia. The noise gave her confidence back, washing away the small thread of doubt. The human just stood there, his breathing steady, his nunchucks spinning in a slow, controlled pattern. The metal chain between the sticks shimmered under the bright lights, moving so fast at times it almost disappeared. She snarled. "You think you're clever, human?" she taunted. "One lucky hit won't save you." He didn't answer. Not with words. Instead, he stepped forward, light on his feet, eyes locked on her every move. Sarathia launched herself at him again, but this time she came with a flurry of strikes. Her armor-enhanced speed was legendary. Her fists swung in a blur, energy blades humming as they cut through the air. Any normal opponent would already be on the ground, but the human wasn't normal. He moved like water, slipping past each blow, letting the energy blades miss by inches. His footwork was precise, his body always angled just out of reach. And every time she missed, the nunchucks would snap against her armorist's shoulder, each hit perfectly timed, each one finding a weak point. Clang! Crack! Another piece of her armor fell away, clattering across the arena floor. The crowd gasped again. The alien queen narrowed her eyes, her interest deepening. Sarathia's strikes grew wilder. She could feel herself losing control, but she couldn't stop. Every time she tried to overpower him, he used her momentum against her. Her pride burned hotter than the ache in her body. This wasn't supposed to happen. Humans were supposed to be slower, weaker, clumsier. The human's expression didn't change. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't angry. He was focused entirely, completely focused. She finally landed a partial hit. Her armored elbow grazed his shoulder. But instead of falling back, he twisted his body, letting the force slide past him and brought the nunchucks down in a crushing arc across her side. She staggered. The crowd went silent for a heartbeat. The blow had been strong enough to dent the plating across her ribs. She could feel the heat of the impact through her suit. "You," she growled, steadying herself, "are faster than I thought." Still, he gave no reply. Instead, he began to circle her, his movements calm, deliberate. The sound of the nunchucks spinning filled the silence like a drumbeat before war. Whip. The sound was hypnotic, unnerving. Sarathia suddenly realized the truth. He wasn't just defending. He was wearing her down, breaking her armor piece by piece. The human style was unlike anything she'd ever faced. Her people trained for brute strength and speed, but his weapon relied on precision and rhythm. Every hit was a calculation. Every strike was meant to weaken her, to slowly dismantle the invincible image she had built. Her mind flashed with an image of herself, victorious as always, standing over the fallen human. But the vision was starting to blur. For the first time, she could imagine a different ending. The thought made her furious. She roared and lunged again. But the human ducked under her arm, his weapon snapping up against her jawline with a sharp crack. She stumbled back, her vision flashing white for a second. The crowd, once full of mocking cheers, was now split half, shouting for her to destroy him. Half simply watching in stunned disbelief. The alien queen's voice finally broke the tension from above. "Show me, human. Show me why you dared challenge my champion." The human didn't even look up at her. His eyes stayed on Zarathia. The spinning of his nunchuck slowed for just a moment, and then, without warning, he exploded forward. The sudden burst of speed caught her off guard. His strikes came in a rapid chain, one to the knee, one to the shoulder, one to the side of her head. She tried to block, but each hit flowed into the next before she could react. Her balance faltered. The arena floor tilted in her vision for a second as she caught herself. Her heart pounded. Her breath came faster now, her muscles burning. She realized she wasn't in control of this fight anymore, and worse she suspected, she never had been. The sound of her own breathing was too loud inside her helmet. Zarathia had fought in countless arenas, faced beasts twice her size, and crushed warriors with a single blow. Yet here she was, panting, sweating, and struggling to keep pace with a human who wielded nothing but two sticks joined by a chain. Her gauntlets were scratched, her shoulder plating dented, and her ribs ached where his weapon had struck. She forced herself to block out the pain. Losing here was not an option. The human stood opposite her, still calm. His stance was loose, relaxed, but his eyes burned with focus. The nunchuck spun lazily in one hand, the chain whispering in the air. It wasn't just a weapon, it was an extension of him. The crowd had quieted, the earlier laughter fading into tense murmurs. Some leaned forward, their alien eyes wide, while others looked around as if trying to make sense of what they were witnessing. Zarathia growled and tightened her stance. Enough games. She launched forward, pushing her armor to full power. The boosters on her legs flared, propelling her like a cannonball. The arena floor shook under the force of her charge. She swung her arm in a wide arc, intending to smash through him completely. But the human moved at the last instant, sidestepping with fluid grace. Crack. The nunchucks whipped forward, striking directly at the seam between her chest plate and shoulder armor. The sound echoed like glass breaking. A jagged split appeared, glowing sparks spitting from the damage. Zarathia's eyes widened. That part of her armor was reinforced. No normal strike could have broken it. She staggered back, touching the spot, feeling the heat through the metal. The crowd erupted in gasps and shouts. Even the alien queen leaned forward in her seat, her golden eyes narrowing in interest. The human didn't give her time to recover. He stepped in, the nunchucks blurring again. Each strike landed with precision, elbow, ribs, niche, one, aimed at weak spots. The chain clinked and sang with every motion, a deadly rhythm that never faltered. Zarathia swung her fists wildly, trying to force him back, but he was already gone before her strikes could land. He moved like smoke. Impossible. To hold another crack rang out, this time from her thigh plating. A long fracture spread down the side, small shards falling away to the floor. She could feel the cold air of the arena on her skin beneath the armor. The humiliation burned worse than the pain. This human, with his primitive weapon, was dismantling her piece by piece in front of the entire galaxy. Her anger boiled. "Over!" she roared, activating her suit's shockwave emitter. A pulse of energy burst outward, forcing him back a few steps. She seized the moment, charging again, her fists glowing bright. But this time, the human didn't retreat. He leaned forward, stepping into her attack instead of away from it. The nunchucks snapped around in a tight arc, the chain wrapping around her forearm. With a sharp twist, he pulled, spinning his body in the opposite direction. Her balance broke. The force wrenched her sideways, exposing her chest plate, and then bang. The nunchucks came down with a crushing strike to the center of her chest armor. The sound was deafening. Metal cracked and split apart, a chunk of plating falling to the ground with a heavy clang. The crowd went silent. Zarathia staggered, clutching at the exposed area. Her breathing was ragged now, her pride bleeding with every second. She could feel the eyes of thousands on her, not in admiration, but in disbelief. The human didn't gloat. He simply spun his weapon once, the chain whistling, and reset his stance. His eyes told her exactly what she didn't want to hear. "Rai can break the rest of you, too." The alien queen finally spoke, her voice carrying across the arena. Interesting. Very interesting. Her words were calm, but there was a weight to them, a recognition that this fight was no longer just sport. It was a statement. Zarathia's pulse hammered in her ears. She could still win. She had to win. But for the first time in her career, she wasn't sure how. The human moved again, closing the gap. The crowd held its breath, and somewhere deep inside, beneath the anger and shame, a spark of fear began to grow. The cracked chest plate felt like a hole in her pride. Every breath Zarathia took reminded her of the human strike. The edges of the broken armor scraped against her skin, constant reminder that this was no longer an easy fight. Around them, the arena was a different place now. The crowd that once roared her name now sat in a tense, restless silence. Whispers ran through the stands, voices speaking in disbelief. Is he really a human? How can nunchucks do that? This shouldn't be possible. The alien queen still watched, her chin resting on her hand, her eyes sharp and unreadable. Zarathia forced her breathing to slow. She had been in tough fights before. This wasn't over. It couldn't be over. She still had her armor, most of it tanned. Her speed. If she could land one clean hit, she could turn the fight. But the human wasn't giving her a chance. He advanced with slow, deliberate steps. His nunchuck spun in tight, precise circles, the sound sharp and constant. Every step seemed to shrink the arena, pressing her into a smaller and smaller space. Zarathia took a step back, then another. She was retreating. She never retreated. Her pride flared. Enough. With a sudden roar, she activated her suit's full combat mode. Blue energy lines across her armor flared bright, the boosters on her legs igniting. Her speed doubled instantly. She became a blur, darting around him in a tight circle. The human didn't chase her. He stood in place, turning slowly, tracking her with his eyes. Zarathia launched forward, striking from his blind spot. Her armored fist came down with the force to dent a starship hull. But the human was already gone. He stepped into her attack, letting it pass by inches, and slammed the nunchucks into the side of her knee joint. The hit sent a sharp shock through her leg. She tried to swing again, but another strike landed, this time on her ribs, right against the damaged chest plate. Sparks flew, and she gasped. She stumbled back, her balance breaking. The human didn't let up. He moved with a speed that didn't seem possible, the nunchucks flashing in the light. Every strike was a puzzle piece fitting perfectly into place: shoulder, hip, wrist, ribs. He wasn't just hitting her, he was breaking her defense apart. One by one, pieces of her armor fell to the ground, fragments of the gauntlet shards from her thigh plate, a broken panel from her back. The sound of each piece hitting the floor was like a hammer striking her pride. Her mind screamed for her to fight back. But every time she tried, he was already moving, already striking, already taking more from her. The alien crowd was no longer cheering. They were watching, silent, shocked. Zarathia's breathing turned ragged. She had to do something, anything, to shift the momentum. She made her choice. It was risky, but but she had no other options. Her right gauntlet clicked open, revealing a hidden weapon, a retractable energy blade. It hummed to life, glowing bright white, the air around it sizzling from the heat. The crowd gasped. The rules of the arena allowed hidden weapons, but using one was considered desperate, a last move before defeat. The human's eyes flicked to the blade. He didn't flinch. Zarathia lunged, swinging the blade in a deadly arc. This time, she wasn't aiming to bruise, she was aiming to end the fight. The human moved, not back, not sideways, but forward. The chain of his nunchucks looped around her wrist mid-swing, locking tight. With a sharp twist, he wrenched her arm upward, forcing the blade away from him. In the same motion, he brought the other stick of the nunchucks down hard on her forearm, plating crack. The armor split clean, the blade flickering before deactivating. Her arm went limp, the gauntlet systems dead. She cried out, stumbling back. The weapon clattered to the floor, useless. The human didn't press the attack. He stepped back, spinning the nunchuck slowly, giving her space knot out of mercy. But to show he wasn't afraid of her anymore. And in that moment, Zarathia realized the truth. She had just played her last card. The hum of her fallen blade still echoed faintly in the arena, but it was quickly drowned out by the whispers of the crowd. She's losing. A human is winning against Zarathia. This can't be real. Zarathia's pulse hammered. In her ears, her right arm felt heavy and sluggish, the broken gauntlet sparking occasionally as its systems died. Her breathing was harsh, her chest aching with every inhale. She had been trained her whole life for combat, for victory, for glory. Defeat was a word that belonged to others, never to her. Yet here she stood, facing a human who had taken everything she thought made her untouchable and shattered it. The human's steps were calm as he moved toward her again. The nunchuck spun in a slow, steady rhythm, the chain glinting under the arena lights. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't desperate. He was certain. Zarathia's pride flared one more time. She straightened her back, forcing herself into a ready stance despite the pain. "I'm not finished," she growled. The human didn't respond. His eyes stayed locked on hers, cold and unblinking. She charged, using her boosters to close the distance in a blink. Her left fist swung in a brutal hook aimed at his temple, but he dipped under it, pivoting smoothly, and the nunchucks snapped against her ribs. The sound of splintering metal echoed. Another large chunk of her chest plate broke free. Clattering onto the floor, she gasped, the force of the blow nearly knocking the air from her lungs. Before she could recover, the human struck again, one hit to the thigh, one to the shoulder, and a third directly at her hip joint. Each impact was precise, targeted, and devastating. Her armor was failing. The once impenetrable black plating now hung in broken fragments. The crowd had stopped whispering. Now they were watching, their silence heavier than any roar. The alien queen rose from her seat slightly, her golden eyes narrowing in interest. She was seeing something rare, not just a human winning, but a human dominating one of her finest. Warrior Zarathia's movements became sluggish. Her swings lost speed, her footing less sure. She tried to push forward again, but the human sidestepped, the nunchucks cracking against her shin. Pain shot up her leg, forcing her to drop to one knee. The arena erupted not in cheers for her but in gasps of disbelief. She, the undefeated champion, was kneeling before an unarmored human. Her vision blurred for a moment, rage and humiliation battling inside her. "Get up," she told herself, forcing her body to move. She tried to rise, but the human's shadow fell over her. He spun the nunchucks once more, the motion a silent warning. Then, with a single, devastating strike, he shattered what remained of her left shoulder plate. The impact sent her stumbling sideways, barely catching herself before falling completely. Fragments of armor lay scattered around, her like pieces of a broken crown. Every second she remained on her feet felt like borrowed time. The human paused, lowering his weapon slightly. It wasn't mercy yet, was dominance. He was letting her see the gap between them, letting her feel that no matter what she tried next, he would end it just as easily. The alien queen finally spoke, her voice carrying effortlessly over the silent. Arena Zarathia, you are being dismantled. Her words were calm, but they cut deeper than any weapon. Zarathia clenched her fists, anger surging. She lunged forward in a last-ditch attack, aiming a flurry of strikes at his head and torso. But the human's defense was flawless. Every swing she made was countered by a precise movement. Every attempt blocked or avoided, and then came the counterattack. A strike to the ribs, a strike to the hip, a strike to the knee. The final hit landed across her midsection with such force that the last major panel of her chest armor split in two and fell away. The impact drove her back several steps, her body screaming in protest. The crowd exhaled as one, the tension breaking just slightly. Zarathia looked down at herself at the exposed undersuit beneath the broken armor. She had never been this vulnerable. In a fight, never the human took a single step toward her. His weapon rested loosely in his hands, but the message was clear. If I strike again, you will fall. She stared at him, breathing hard, her pride in tatters. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the humiliation, a strange thought began to form this. Human had earned something no one else ever had from her. Her respect. The arena lights burned bright overhead, casting long shadows across the floor. Pieces of broken armor lay scattered between the two fighters, a trail of defeat that pointed straight to Zarathia. Her chest was heaving, sweat dripping down her temple. Her once glorious armor reduced to fragments hanging loosely from her frame. The human stood opposite her, calm and steady. His nunchucks spinning in his hands like they had from the very beginning, controlled, precise, deadly. His breathing hadn't changed, not once. The alien crowd, once deafening with cheers for their champion, now watched in stunned silence. No one could believe what they were seeing. The mighty Zarathia, the undefeated warrior of the queen, was seconds away from losing to a lone human. Zarathia gritted her teeth, forcing herself upright. Her legs trembled, her right arm still sluggish from the earlier blow that destroyed her gauntlet. She couldn't let this end like this, not in front of the queen, not in front of her people. She stepped forward, her boots scraping against the arena floor. I will not kneel to you, she growled, her voice raw with defiance. The human didn't reply. His eyes stayed locked on hers. No arrogance, no mockery, just certainty. She lunged. One last desperate attack. Every ounce of strength she had left went into this strike and overhead swing, meant to crush him, but the human had been waiting for this moment. In a single smooth motion, he stepped inside her reach, his left foot planting firmly on the ground. The nunchucks whipped upward, the chain wrapping tight around her forearm mid-swing. With a sharp twist, he pulled her forward. Using her own momentum against her, she stumbled. The second stick of the nunchuck snapped upward into her exposed ribs with a brutal crack. Pain exploded through her side. Her knees buckled, but she refused to go down till the follow-up came. The human pivoted, bringing the nunchucks down in a crushing arc across the back of her knee joint. The impact was like a hammer against glass. Her leg gave out instantly. Zarathia dropped to one knee. The crowd gasped in unison, their voices a wave of disbelief. The sound of her armor scraping the floor was louder than the noise around them. The human didn't stop there. With measured steps, he circled to her front. The nunchuck spun once more, the chain glinting under the lights, and then WHM. A final, precise strike to the center of her chest tore away the last of her armor's plating. The fragments clattered to the ground, leaving her kneeling before him, breathing hard. Her body exposed in the dark undersuit beneath. It was over. She looked up at him, her pride shattered. The crowd was silent, waiting for his victory cry, for some sign of gloating. But the human simply lowered his weapon and took a step back. That gesture cut deeper than any taunt. He didn't see her as a threat anymore. The fight had ended the moment she hit her knees, and they both knew it. The alien queen rose from her throne, her voice carrying across the arena. "Enough," she said. "The match is decided. The human is victorious." The silence broke into a roar, not cheers for Zarathia, but a thunder of shock and awe for the human. Even those who had mocked him earlier were now chanting his name. Zarathia stayed where she was for a long moment. Her head bowed, the weight of defeat pressing down on her shoulders. Slowly, she forced herself to look up. "You," she said, quietly, her voice hoarse, "are unlike any opponent I have ever faced." The human didn't answer. He simply turned and walked away, his nunchucks hanging loosely at his side, leaving her kneeling in the center of the arena with the shattered pieces of her pride scattered. Around her, the queen's voice rang out one last time. "Let it be known across the stars," she declared, "that on this day a human humbled our champion." The roar of the crowd still echoed in the massive arena, but it was no longer the same kind of sound that had greeted Zarathia at the start of the match. It wasn't mocking laughter or confident cheers, it was a thunder of disbelief, awe, and something she had never thought would be aimed at a human. Her knees were still pressed against the cold floor. Pieces of her shattered armor lay in a broken circle around her. The heat of battle was gone, but the sting of humiliation burned hotter than any wound. The human stood several paces away, back straight, nunchucks hanging loosely at his side. He hadn't raised them in victory, hadn't shouted in triumph. That was perhaps the most unsettling part. He didn't need to. His silence was the victory. The alien queen stepped forward from her throne, her golden robes flowing like liquid light. Her voice carried easily across the arena without effort. "Rise, Zarathia," she commanded. Zarathia took a slow breath and obeyed, her legs unsteady. She stood before the queen and the human, feeling the weight of 1,000 eyes watching. Her every move, the queen's gaze moved between them. "In all the years I have ruled," she began, "I have seen warriors fall, champions rise, and battles fought with glory and dishonor alike. But today, I have seen something rare. Seen skill so pure, it left no room for arrogance." Her eyes settled on the human. "You, Outlander, have defeated my champion in a fair duel. Speak your name so it may be remembered." The human's voice was calm, steady. "Daniel Cross." A ripple went through the crowd at the sound of his name, as if they wanted to memorize it on the spot. The queen turned back to Zarathia. "And you, what do you say of this human?" Zarathia's pride fought against the words in her throat. Every instinct screamed at her to cling to her dignity, to call the fight a fluke, to promise revenge. But the truth weighed heavier. She looked at Daniel, seeing him not as prey or a joke, but as a warrior who had earned something more valuable than victory, her respect. "You fought with skill I could not match," she said finally, her voice steady. "I mocked you, and paid for it. I have no shame in saying this. You are worthy." A murmur of approval rolled through the crowd. Even the queen's lips curved into a faint smile. Daniel gave a short nod. "Respect is mutual." For a moment, the tension in the arena shifted. The atmosphere no longer felt like that of a defeated champion standing before her conqueror, but of two warriors acknowledging each other. The queen raised a hand, and the crowd fell silent again. Let it be known, she said, that this duel will be recorded in the annals of our history, and that Daniel Cross, the human who came to challenge us, will be honored as a warrior of the Empire. The roar that followed shook the arena. The chants now carried a different name, Daniel, mixing with the sound of alien voices in approval. Zerathia stepped closer to him, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "You've made an enemy today," she said, but there was no venom in it. Instead, her eyes gleamed with something else, curiosity, and maybe a rival worth fighting again. Daniel's mouth curved slightly, almost a smile. "Then I'll be ready." They stood there for a brief moment, warriors bound by a fight that neither would forget as they walked out of the arena side by side. The crowd's noise followed them, like a wave. Outside, the alien city gleamed in the fading light, the skyline painted gold by the setting sun. Daniel glanced at Zerathia. "You didn't have to say I was worthy." She smirked faintly, one corner of her lip curling upward. "I didn't say it for you. I said it so they'd know I'm not blind." He chuckled under his breath. The Queen's voice echoed faintly from the arena behind them, still addressing the crowd, ensuring that this day this fight would be remembered for generations. Far above, banners were already changing, no longer showing only the name of Zerathia. Now, alongside hers, another name appeared in bold letters. Daniel Cross, somewhere in the city. Whispers had already begun. The human who humbled the champion. Oh, the fight that defied the odds. And a question that would soon spread across the galaxy. One human could do this. What could the rest of them do? Daniel tightened his grip on his nunchucks as they stepped into the fading sunlight, his mind already knowing this wasn't the end of his battles here. It was only the beginning.